everybody, welcome to this week's live. My name is Charlie. Today we are covering iOS 14. It is going live. The big shebang, everything that everybody's been fearing about, all the fear mongering and preaching and back and forth and all sorts of stuff. We're going to cover it today. What you actually need to know, what we already know, the best practices that you need to be embracing, the things that are going to go away, and what you actually need to do to continue to succeed. And what I want to do more than anything is help you to begin to win at Facebook. Once again, hi, I'm Charlie. I'm here to help you out. We're going to cover a lesson. We're going to go to question and answers. There's also going to be some homework, and if you do this homework from this live or from any other week's live, you get 50% off FacebookDisruptor.com or any of the ebooks for free. Once again, this is iOS 14 and Facebook, everything that you need to know how to begin to win at Facebook and how you need to modify your account or the way that you think to succeed in this new era of Facebook. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Okay, so iOS 14 is coming out. Now, there's been a lot of talk around this. Now, there's been a lot of issues. People saying, well, we're going to have lower tracking, and there's going to be audience issues, and this might affect our retargeting, and there might really impact how we do other things. And, we're going to really have to really embrace sort of old school tactics and a lot of other stuff. But let me get down straight to it. First off, we absolutely know what we're supposed to do. We absolutely know what the best practice looks like moving forward. We absolutely know how to set up our ad accounts for success in this environment. And let me tell you why we absolutely know that. Because Facebook itself is not changing the way that they operate. Also, because this is not some groundbreaking change in the way that Facebook operates. It's also not a groundbreaking change in the way that we track information and see data. This is still the exact same universe that we've been in. The only real big difference is in a little bit of how data is passed back and forth and in the volume of information that we're going to be seeing, because we might not see a lot of other information that honestly isn't that important to the end customer's journey. So let me tell you first what we're going to no longer have as much value in. First, we are going to see at some point a lower amount of data coming in real time. Now, mind you, this has already been happening. Also, let me be very clear about something else before we get too far down this. We've been seeing ad blocking and this type of issue around data and it being constrained, not just from Apple, but we have seen it also from governments around the world. iOS 14 is a logical extension of iOS 13 and of iOS 12. And of CCPA, and a lot of other things, GDPR. This is something that's been going around the world for years. Basically, Facebook marketers got really good at having way too much information, so they didn't actually have to be good at advertising. They were able to just throw money into the platform and make money out of it. What you're going to have to do now is rely less and less on getting lucky and less on disrespecting your customer and more on using the platform the way it was designed, which we already know how that goes because those case studies were established years ago and the people that have been embracing them have continued to win moving forward. So understand that this problem is 1, not new. 2, not disruptive to our current best practices. And 3, easy to mitigate for. And the number one change that most people are going to have to make is they're going to have to eventually at some point in time abandon what they've been using as best practices because they are still implementing what worked on Google over a decade ago that has absolutely nothing to do with how you win on Facebook. You're going to have to stop leveraging hard work and complexity and using getting lucky as a business model and start leaning into an optimized CPM environment. That's what Facebook runs on. It's an OCPM environment. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. You are going to see, yes, less data, but that doesn't mean that you're actually going to see a whole bunch of stuff missing. What it means is that you're only going to get past the last event inside of your funnel that somebody fires. So you're not going to get view contents from somebody that adds to cart. You're not going to get add to carts from somebody that purchases, which means your actionability off of that data is not impacted unless you're targeting add to carts at people that have already bought. Like if somebody just bought, they're not in your add to cart audience. So your add to cart audience, effectively think of it like this. The exclusions that you should already have in place are going to be done automatically for you. It's actually going to make your architecture easier because you're not going to have to rely on implementing all of the steps that you may previously have had to implement. And the more important thing about that is that it doesn't actually impact the audience size and the actionability of the data that you do receive. Second point, there will be a delay in some of this information. But we've already been seeing that. That's been happening not just for the last week, not just for the last month. This is what occurred once Facebook implemented what they call the aggregated events manager. And ultimately still doesn't impact your day-to-day decision-making because hopefully at some point you've moved away from day trading Facebook in a highly complicated account and moving on large trends data on simplified accounts. You don't care that 10 a.m. something happened or 2 p.m. something happened. It's the last 3 to 5 days look like this. So I'm going to make a move because the data has told me that I'm trending in the right direction. If you're still trying to be reactionary to previous days' information or capitalize on some signal that you think you're getting today, understand that you are at best an educated gambler reacting to an environment. You are not proactively managing your investment. You are chasing yesterday's wins. You're chasing this morning's wins. And very, very few people get extremely successful by chasing something that already happened. Understand that that is a fundamentally more impaired way of managing your day-to-day efforts. Now, the other thing that we're going to see, then people have been really, frustrated about is, will this mean that we're just going to see overall tracking of everything? And that means that some of our numbers may or may not be completely accurate. Yes. And that's already been happening for years. Facebook data, just like every platform's data, is not exactly 100%. For instance, a lot of people rely on Google Analytics. And let me tell you, if your Google Analytics is 80% correct, you're a ninja that should be churning six-figure income just setting that up for other people. That's an unrealistic expectation. And most people worry about attribution in the wrong way. So most people worry about attribution saying, I got a sale, where do I assign credit? That's the wrong way of thinking. That ultimately comes from an idea of multi-touch attribution, which is basically a failed effort to solve a problem that doesn't exist, where companies around the world have spent billions of dollars for decades to try to solve, and there is not yet a solution on the table because it's not a problem you can actually solve for. You cannot map out customer trends to say that the average customer behaves in X, Y, and Z, and based on that, I'm going to assign specific bits of credit. Where companies have installed this, and believe me, I know some of the companies that have installed it. There are a lot of them. They're primarily doing it in a way that makes every department look viable on paper for the business. It's a methodology of self-preservation, not of actionable insight. And that's a big point that we want to make here. So the way that you should be attributing your data and the way that you should be looking at your information is, I spent $1 today. How much incremental impact did that give to my business? Track from the click of your dollar and then try to make it make more impact over time. It's not about where does every single sale go to and how do I make as much credit as I can, which also goes into this delayed attribution model, which, remember, delayed attribution is basically just a lie that ad agencies use to try to take as much credit of everybody else's work. And there's people saying, well, there's like a 7-day or a 20-day, consideration period, but that doesn't matter to you because you're not measuring on the first click, you're measuring on the last click. What made somebody buy? And if you're trying to tell me that somebody clicked on a Facebook ad 3.5 weeks ago, never once touched your email, never once went to your site, never once went to customer service, never once did any other action involving your business at all, and then dropped money on you, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. 100%, that is not the way things work. And it's not about trying to assign the credit of an action back to the dollar that you spent. That is how ad agencies try to take credit for the work of other people. That's not how a business grows, by being successful and actually understanding their data. What you need to do is say, I spent this dollar. How much did I get out of it? What are the net results? What is the efficiency that I've garnered from that dollar? And then you try to improve it. And what this really comes down to is, if we see 10% of data, or if we see 20 or 40% of data, which is kind of already happening and has been happening for years, and you're not going to see a dramatic shift in that number, but has been happening for years already. What's most important is you have a benchmark of performance. What happens one day after click on all of your platforms? Because remember, if you're not relying on one day click, then you're relying on inaccurate, honestly, data that is inactionable, that lacks integrity. And you're measuring probably every channel by a different attribution model, which means none of your reporting is actually of value to anyone other than the person that's writing the report so that somebody can pay them. If you're measuring on a one-day click, though, then you're measuring every single channel against the same yardstick. And your number one objective is to address each channel in a specific way to try to increase the overall net performance of your business. You are adjusting variables in an algebra equation to try to get the best performing outcome. That's how you manage a 6, 7, 8-figure business. That is how you manage for success, not for ego. That's how you grow and scale your business, not sit at Facebook and complain because you can't make artificial numbers that are lying to your client to make you look good. There's a very big difference in performance versus ego. That is a fundamental difference in how a lot of people manage their Facebook accounts. And if somebody's coming to you presenting a report, not on a one-day click, understand that that person is saying, I'm trying to lie to you to take credit for other people's work. They might not even understand functionally that that's what's going on. But I'm telling you, as somebody that has managed hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for nearly a decade, one of these things is valuable, one of them isn't. And let me ask you this. If you're looking at data where one of them's on a one-day click and one of them's on a 7 and another one's on a 30, and you end up getting 3 or 4 channels that all take credit for the same sale, what kind of problem are you in? What kind of action are you taking? And if you're looking at delayed attribution, or you're looking at trying to tie every single sale back to something, and you're not being able to take advantage of information today based on something that occurred in the last 24 hours, is it going to take you a week to make that decision? Is it going to take you a month to take care of that decision? Does your finance department and fulfillment department understand where their email or Google or Facebook is required? It gives credit for that sale on money that came in today based off of spend 3 weeks ago? No, that's a fundamentally garbage data situation. And it is not useful to anybody other than the person spending the money to make their numbers look good. What's important to you is directional information. You have a benchmark that you see, and then you try to make that benchmark better. iOS 14 or every ad blocking system that's coming down from every advertiser and just the average user. The number one most important thing is try to make each channel more efficient in how it contributes to the bottom line. Now, we've talked a lot about actionability. We've talked a lot about data. We've talked a lot about attribution, and we've talked a lot about your audience. Now, the other downside that people are saying is, well, it means that we're not really going to be able to use all of these audiences. So then they're pivoting towards weakness. They're pivoting towards what their lizard brain is telling them to do. They're pivoting towards what worked on other platforms a long, long time ago that has no basis. What I've been seeing a lot of people say is, well, because of all this, we're going to have to try out a bunch of different audiences. Well, remember, the more complicated your ad account, the more complex your ad account, fundamentally, the dumber your ad account is. Because remember, Facebook is a machine learning platform. Every time you spend money, what you're doing is you're investing in the intelligence of each place that you're spending money. So every audience, if you're spending $100 today on one audience, that audience gets $100 smarter. If you're spending $100 but across 10 audiences and say they all get $10, well, each one of them is 10 times dumber than the one could be. Now extrapolate that out over a week, over a month, over a year. How much dumber do you want your Facebook account to be so that you can chase individual little wins that ultimately, if you have a bunch of different audiences that all overlap over each other and none of them get out of the learning phase and all of them are wildly unstable and you're trying to chase down some version of success, at best, you are an informed gambler trying to use luck and hard work as a business model, and that's not a scalable solution for any company. So when you try to say, well, we're getting less data, what we need to do is then take this less data and diversify it among a million other options or a dozen other options, then what you're doing is saying, I'm getting lower data integrity. The way I'm going to solve for that is to massively increase the lack of integrity that I'm going to see on data anywhere. That is fundamentally the absolute wrong way to handle any problem. If you see an issue in your business, the way you solve that issue is not to magnify that problem and make it an even larger liability. The way that we're solving for this is the same way we've been solving this for the last several years. You spend as much as you can in the fewest amount of places so that if you get, say, 20% less data, maybe the solution there is to spend in 20% less places. That way, the places you are spending are seeing the same amount of data. Or you get down to one place. You know, the ideal campaign setups are literally creative testing at the top of the funnel, and you don't have mid-funnel retargeting. You don't have bottom funnel retargeting. You let that top of the funnel see everything. Now, I know that's groundbreaking and really disruptive and like goes against everything that you were taught, but it's everything that you were taught by people that don't know what they're talking about, that made their success on the back of either hard work or implementing Google and email and programmatic or display platform best practices. That is functionally the exact opposite of how you're supposed to manage things in Facebook. And you can get success like that because there is a certain amount that you can win. Because most brands are not functionally completely incapable of winning. You can impair success heavily and still win if the brand is good. The point is, if you work really hard to make Facebook dumb and make it relying on your hard work, where most of those people are also being wildly dishonest in their reporting and lacking integrity in their data because they're using delayed attribution models and things like 7-day click and 1-day view, all of these other things that basically say, I'm going to lie. I'm going to take credit for other people's work. I'm going to make Facebook rely on my hard work, and I'm going to keep it as dumb as possible while being an educated gambler relying on getting lucky and being reactionary to previous data. Those people will struggle. They're solving the same problems now that they were solving 6 months ago and 2 years ago and 5 years ago. They're still trying to find the right audience and the right offer to this little segment, and then the ads, they're making this wildly complicated system. And as we see more and more of the data being limited, the way you solve for that is by trying to no longer lean on your ego and on getting lucky and on trying to be smart by like implementing hard work and overly complicated systems that ultimately become unmanageable. The way that you win, and again, this was established in 2018, is you have simple ad accounts where you focus on the number one weapon you have inside the Facebook ecosystem, the ad. What you pay, your bid in the auction, is your budget and your estimated action rate. The more money you spend, the higher your bid is going to be. The better your ad is, the lower your bid in the auction is going to be. The number one way of lowering your cost at scale is to get a better ad. Get ads that people want to engage with that ultimately bring you good business results. If you are not prioritizing your creative testing, then you are not prioritizing future success for your business. That is a fundamental truth, regardless of anything. And if we ultimately see no information, if we ultimately get absolutely no data from Facebook, it'll still have to be measured in the same way that we measure television and radio and out-of-home print and experiential marketing, which again goes back to, I'm spending money here. Does that improve or not my bottom line or not? And ultimately that comes down to, is this a good bit of advertising or is that a bad one? And if I spend more, if my investment increases in one area, can I get my overall performance to do better somewhere else? Does that make a positive shift across my overall business? Ultimately, no matter what, that's how business works. And if you are listening to anybody that says that Facebook is going to be tremendously impaired because of iOS 14, removing the amount of data that you're seeing, understand that they, at their core, number one, don't know how Facebook works. And number two, don't understand core business principles around investment management and customer journey. They're fundamentally limited and ignorant when it comes to success for business. That is a hard statement that I will 100% back up to anybody. And if you have an issue with that, or if you want to understand how that might impact you, please comment below or reach out to me. I will gladly walk through it. But understand, the way that you are going to win is the same way that you were going to win 3 years ago, the same way that you were going to win 20 years ago, the same way that people won 300 years ago. It doesn't matter about the amount of the amount of complexity and all this other stuff. What fundamentally is most important is being able to say, how much did I invest and what is my return? You are an investment banker. That is it. And if you can't return a consistent, projectable, understandable, constant result, then you're going to be unable to implement the scientific method to improve your business. And if your architecture does not allow for that, understand that you are fundamentally limiting your opportunity for scale and success. That's what we need to know. So iOS 14 is coming. It's going to be here in like the next week or two. A lot of people say it's going to be announced at the April 20th Apple, whatever their big, hoopla is. How that impacts your business is it's going to force you to have to lean more and more on simple business practices that have existed for generations, and less on being an informed gambler trying to get lucky as a business model, leveraging hard work and being reactionary in a system that is unmanageable, unstable, and where you're reporting your success in a way that lacks integrity and is inactionable, where you are taking credit for other people's work. That's the bottom line. So, your homework for today is simple. You can do one of two things. The first one is pull your reporting over the last month at a 1-day click versus however you normally did. And just understand, what's the difference? What's the difference? If it was a 2x ROAS on a 7-day click, 1-day view, is it a 0.8 on day one? Whatever the difference is, just understand this is my default attribution. This is the truth. Understand what the truth is. Because remember, our number one goal is to make it more efficient, right? Our number one goal is to take that 0.5 that we're seeing on day one and make it a 0.6. Our number one goal is to take that $35 CPA that we see on a 1-day click and make it a $32. That will functionally improve the business all the way through the funnel. Because remember, if you get a better quality customer into your store, all of your channels are going to get better, because your Facebook's unfair advantage in the marketplace is creating intent at scale. And so that means you're going to have better quality customers through your Google. It means you're going to have better quality leads on your email. It means that your conversion rate is going to go up because you're prioritizing quality of customer. You're going to see a lift across your entire ecosystem because you're worrying about getting good customers in. A lot of people struggle where they're going around like CPMs or antiquated, obsolete metrics like CPC and Facebook. That doesn't mean anything, right? If you have a Ferrari dealership and you give a whole bunch of test drives to college students they have no credit, how many Ferraris do you think that you're going to actually sell? And if you're saying, well, eventually I'm going to get these guys and these guys and these guys and get a whole bunch of volume of people that are not going to buy, you're not going to move the needle at all. But if you worry about making your advertising, really go out and get a few salespeople, a few ad sets, a few audiences, your sales folk, your salesmen and women, and you actually make them focus on getting good quality customers into your store, well, then they don't need to bring you nearly as many potential customers, because your conversion rate on them is going to be astronomically better. So stop worrying about CPCs and CPMs and CTRs and all of that other shit that matters for Google, but has no fucking place in Facebook as a metric that you look to for success, because it doesn't fucking matter. So remember, your homework, part 1, if you want to do part 1, or you can do part 2, understand your 1-day click metric, because ultimately you're going to focus on making that better. The other way that you can look at this, the other bit of homework, is to just say, how many ad sets do I have? And how many of them are trying to accomplish the same business goal? You could say, I've got 37 ad sets, and 23 of them are all prospecting. There you go. Now you understand your ecosystem. You understand how complicated is your ad account. How dumb are you keeping Facebook? That's it now. You just have to tell me those things, right? You obviously, like I preach a lot about different things, and there's many, many different bits of videos here and a lot of action items I give folks. But if you can understand one of those 2 metrics, you're going to be able to take an action item today to start improving your Facebook. You're going to be able to begin to win at Facebook. Once again, hi, I'm Charlie. I hope this helps. Bring on your questions. I see there's a couple people inside the clubhouse here, and I know that there are some other folks here on YouTube as well as Facebook. Believe me, I can see that the viewer count is like boom, 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 climbing. So I'm going to take a sip of this juice because I haven't actually inhaled in about 25 minutes. Raise your hands on Clubhouse. I see your question here from YouTube, and I'm going to get to that in just 1 second. Ping other people into the room. Let's get started helping people get better. That's what this is all about. Oh, yeah. Also, shameless plug, just dropped a course on my site. If you want to have a 5-hour lecture series with over, like, I think it's like a dozen different modules, and with an ebook, notes on every module, action items that take, ethos that go directly into how do you begin to think, how do you problem solve, how do you manage your investment, how do you do testing, how do you architect things, and how do you simplify and prioritize your efforts so that you can spend less and less time on the platform while getting better and better results over time, where every week, every month gets better and better and requires less and less of your time. Let me know. That course is up. It's called How to Build a Winning Facebook Ad Account in 2021. Whew. Okay. So if you're in Clubhouse, feel free to ping some people in. I see a question here on YouTube. Let's get to it. So iEntertainment says, my CBO tanked in the last 3 days. Out of nowhere. Did great for the first 3 days. So what I'm inferring from here, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope you're still listening, and comment below if we can have a little bit of an exchange. Let's see. Did the best practice, preach the best I can. One CBO campaign, the purchase was optimized. Utilized dynamic creative. The budget was 100 initially, and then you raised it to 130. Great. So, and by the way, thank you for sticking around. I know it was about 10 minutes since you asked your question. I'm glad that I'm able to get to it, and you're still here. So, first off, I would not truly measure your CBO campaign as successful or not successful until it gets out of the learning phase. The learning phase is Facebook's way of saying that they are confident that they're able to deliver you a consistent result. So my point to that more than anything is, if you have a great first few days and then it tanks after that, that doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means that there was some low-hanging fruit initially, and then Facebook made some mistakes, and it's going to learn from those to help prevent having other problems. Now, normally I would tell people, look at what else is getting in the way of your success. But if you have only one CBO campaign, you're optimizing for purchase, and you're using dynamic creatively, you've already set yourself up great. Now, there's another key point to something that you said. You raised your budget by 30%. My question here is, did you raise it after it was out of the learning phase? And were you seeing consistent projectable results with your campaign before you increased your budget? And how many audiences do you have? My point to this, and you can write back, let me know those answers, but let me explain why I'm asking those questions. Number one, a 30% budget change is a fairly significant change. If I'm asking you to do amounts of work, and then I ask you to increase your output by 30% overnight, the quality of your work is going to go down overnight, because it's very hard to maintain the same quality of work when you're asking somebody to do more. Asking Facebook to spend more money inherently is asking the system to do more work. Now, I'm not saying that raising the budget is the problem. What I'm saying is understand that that is going to have a destabilizing effect on your campaign. Not a permanent one, but remember your bid, and like I literally have this written down on a sticky note from a live that we did like 6 months ago or something. But your bid, I don't know if this you can see that, but your bid is your budget and your estimated action rate. I would put that down on a sheet of paper and stick it up on your wall right behind your computer screen so you see that constantly. If you increase your budget, your bid is going to go up. Your cost of doing business will almost assuredly go up if you increase your budget. Not permanently, but it's going to have a short-term, immediate effect. The other thing that you do is if your estimated action rate goes up, then your bid is going to come down because Facebook is seeing your ad as more desirable in the ecosystem. People are responding positively to your ad. This is literally a little sticky note built off of like an internal doc at Facebook that I got like 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago at this point. And I've been teaching people this constantly. Your bid equals your budget and your estimated action rate. Understand that that is functionally. Now, it's not literally times. It's kind of, these are just the two elements. The algorithm is a bit more, the algebra is a bit more complicated than that. But remember, if you increase your budget, you are going to increase your bid. If you increase your estimated action rate, your bid comes down. So that is one reason I'm asking it. And I see you have a response. Let me finish the other two pieces. The other two pieces that I asked were, how many audiences do you have? Because if you're spending that $100, even in a CBO across multiple audiences, remember that you're really dividing up your investment. So if you have 5 audiences, they're inherently roughly, and I'm using hyperbolic math to explain my point, but they're roughly 5 times dumber than 1. That's basically just how it works. So the last point that I'm going to make is, did you increase your budget after you left the learning phase? And was the learning phase an implication that happened to your account because of the increase of budget? So my point is, and I entertainment, I love it. I can see all of your comments coming in. We're going to get to this too. By the way, again, if you're on Clubhouse, you want to ask us some questions, we are in the Q&A section of the thing. Feel free to raise your hand, ping some people in. So if you've raised your budget while you're in the learning phase, you're effectively starting it over to learn again. Hey, Sherman, I see you. I'm going to bring you up here in just a moment. So some people will say, well, it doesn't matter. I'm still in the learning phase. I can jack it up. I tend to believe in that because you haven't hit a stable point. But understand that you are introducing instability into your account. So you've written back some other answers here. You said, I was running it for 1 week approximately in total. After 4 days, I raised the budget, and the tank came right after raising the budget. Yep. You increased your budget, which means you increased your bid, so you saw worse performance. Totally online, completely what we would expect to see. Doesn't mean you can't increase your budget, just means that I'm going to guess that your audiences weren't out of the learning phase, and you made a 30% change, a pretty significant change to your algorithm. And what happened is you stopped getting the results that you were expecting to see because you asked the system to do functionally a much larger bit of work in a way that was unstable to begin with. So you said you got 20 purchases last week. That's great. Facebook really relies on trying to get 35 to 50 in a week to get out of the learning phase. So you probably weren't out of it. And then you say, okay, you had 3 audiences, a broad and 2 lookalikes. By the way, yeah, I'm not going to get into the nomenclature. Yeah, a broad and 2 lookalikes. So you also said broad performed best. Yeah, not shocked by that either. Here's how I would fix your problem. I would turn off the 2 lookalikes. I would spend all the money in the broad. I would let it get more stable. And then I might look into that dynamic creative. And instead of trying to push my budget, I would try to reduce my cost per sale. I've got a video on the YouTube. It's on, I think it's on, I know it's on YouTube, and I know there's a series of videos on the Instagram and YouTube and TikTok but are about really pushing your efficiency over pushing spend. Everyone can brag about increasing spend, but increasing spend creates problems. If you increase your efficiency, you are actually making a system that is stronger and stronger over time. So let me get to this point. It is far easier to increase your efficiency, lower your cost per sale by 20% than it is to increase your budget by 20%, or in your case, 30%, and maintain the same cost per. It's also more profitable for you to get 20, or in your case, 30% more sales from your dollar than it is to jack up your spend by 30% and see the same amount of volume at your cost per. So my point is, if you can get your cost from $10 to $7 and you get 30% more sales, that is one, more profitable for you, and two, far better for you long term than increasing your spend by 30% and keeping your cost per at $10. Now, there's some business economics in there, but the long story short is if you can get more money out of every dollar you spend, you're making more profit. That's keeping a profit margin at a higher volume. That's a different business objective, and then getting more profit out of the dollars that you spend. The functional piece here is if you can lower your cost from, in this case, in my example, $10 of sale down to $7 a sale, then as you increase your budget, you're going to come in at $8 or $9 a sale. You're still more efficient than where you started, but you're starting to push your volume. So let me give you one more analogy, and then we're going to go to the clubhouse room. By the way, raise your hand. Thank you, people, for listening. I appreciate it. If you were to increase your efficiency by, say, 20%, right? So instead of getting 10 sales for your dollars, you're getting 100, or instead of getting 10 sales for your money, let's say 100. Instead of getting 100 sales for that amount of spend, you're getting 120 sales for that amount of spend. Now, if you increase your spend by 50%, maybe you lose a little bit of efficiency. Let's say you, instead of getting to 180 sales, you get to 170. Well, that's 70% more sales than you were seeing initially, but you're going to do that more efficiently than if you had just tried to maintain your cost and jack up your budget by 70%, which means all you need then is like maybe another 10 or 20% efficiency, and you're going to be at nearly doubling your output without having to double your spend and making more and more profit as you go along. People brag about the wrong thing. Increasing your spend on Facebook is a fool's game and a very elementary way of trying to flex. And it's functionally bad for your business. What it works is increasing your efficiency so that you have the headroom to actually increase your budget. That's how you manage a Facebook account in a way that is meaningful. One more time so I can repeat it for the people in the back. If you increase your efficiency, you get headroom to raise your budget, because as you raise your budget, your cost per sale is going to go up, or cost per lead. This works, by the way, whether you're doing lead magnets, affiliates, purchasing, eCOm, whatever you're doing, no matter what event you're optimizing towards, the cost of that event will go up as you increase your budget. So instead of trying to increase your budget and maintain efficiency, which we know functionally ain't going to happen, increase your efficiency, lower your cost per sale or lead or click or whatever it is that you're trying to drive to. And as you get more and more efficient, that means you can raise your budget. So as you get better and better at your job, you can do more and more work with your time. Real world example, it works on a factory floor. It works inside of Facebook. It's been proven for literally thousands of years. And only now are there some chads on the internet trying to brag about shit that they don't understand, constantly complaining and bragging about increasing their spend. So that's how you manage your thing. Yes, iEntertainment, to ask your last question, my number one position to you right now, would I would keep the budget the same, yes. And I would turn off those LALs, those look-alike audiences. That's what I would do. Look alike, LAL, turn off your lookalikes. Keep the broad and begin to optimize your efficiency. Get it to the point where it doesn't hit your target cost per. It's not like, well, I've been trying to sell things for $25. Get it down to 20. Get yourself the problem where the number one issue that you're seeing is that you're leaving money on the table. So you increase your budget to take advantage of the efficiencies and your ability to do work. Don't go the other way. If you say, hey, look, I can work 10 hours a day and I can make 100 things. If I say, great, now make me 120, you're going to do a worse job. Versus if you say, I went from 10 hours a day, now I can build 120. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build 100, but I'm just going to work 8 hours a day. I can say, great, can you still work the 10 hours a day? What are you going to do? You're going to make more than 120. So I hope that makes sense. Like, people just functionally do not prioritize the correct things. Gain efficiency, then you will get more spend. That's how you manage a Facebook account. It is really that easy. And honestly, I think almost everyone I see having trouble inside of Facebook has that very specific problem. They've prioritized a vanity metric over business success. And if you see anybody, by the way, on the internet, this is another thing. If you see anybody preaching bad advice, tag me in it so I can set them straight. And it's funny. I'm seeing more and more and more people, like on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and whatnot, embracing things that they were heckling me about last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The amount of people that are saying, well, really what you need to do is creative tested fraud has astronomically risen over the last 6 months. And I've been preaching it since 2018. Based around all the case studies that I've done and all sorts of other stuff. So anyway, it's fun to see the world come back around. I love it. And I hope that's success for you. And my ultimate goal is, instead of paying somebody a God knows how much too much money to buy some course built around bullshit numbers that they preach to try to get you to embrace best practices that we were talking about for free 3 years ago, just stick around here. And if you want more help, yes, I do have ebooks, and I just released that course, and it's going very well, and people really seem to like it. But I'm not here to sell you on stuff. I'm here to help you out. With that being said, we got a question from Clubhouse. I'm bringing him to the stage. So let's see. How do I do this? Here we go. And there we go. And we should have you on the stage. Awesome. Introduce yourself and let me know how I can help. Let's more of the time that we can spend to solving your problems, the better it's going to be for everybody. Welcome. How can I help?
Hi, Charlie, my man, dropping all these bombs. I wanted to say I appreciate you and thank you for providing all the value.
You're welcome.
To people like myself.
And thank you for saying such things. I appreciate it. You can be spending your time anywhere right now, and you're here with me. It means the world to me.
For sure, Charlie. I'm here to support. So my question was that what's your go-to strategy for starting out with new products and when there is no pixel data, really? So what's your strategy?
Sure. Two things. First off, I want, if I'm starting off a new product, if it's with let me ask this question. Is it with an existing business that has new SKUs, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So to recap this.
And also something to add to the question was that I do also own a general store.
Okay.
So, and I do test out different products. So I wanted to ask your recommendation in that regards as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So to recap this say it in a different way to make sure that I'm hearing what you're saying and I can help everybody understand. You have a successful store or you have a business that's working and you want to add new products. And you're saying, hey, how do I use my ads to sell new products? So 2 parts to this. First off, I want to challenge the idea that you actually need to run ads to sell these new products. Let me put it to you this way. I think a lot of people make the mistake. I was on several accounts this week with people doing this. They make the mistake of trying to have Facebook ads sell every product in their store. And what I mean by that being a mistake is that more efficient for you making money than selling the existing product that's working? My point is, Nike sells Jordans. They sell a lot of other things, but they're Jordans, right? Pizza Hut sells pizzas. Starbucks sells coffee. There's a flagship product that you go to that brand to acquire. Now, that is absolutely not the only thing that brand sells, but if your media budget is currently, if your investment in advertising is currently not maxed out, like if you are not at a place where you can functionally increase the amount of revenue and profit and scale in your business on the one product that you're selling well, is it positive for you? And the right answer is different for every business. I'm just asking this question so that people can understand the way that I'm thinking, right? Now, the answer might very well be yes, in which case, great. But I want to first challenge the idea that you need to. Not that it's bad that you have extra products. But my point is, if you're spending $500 a day or $10,000 a day or $1 million a day, and believe me, I've spent $1 million a day on Facebook for like one brand. It was nutty. But that's not my point. What I'm getting at is, if there's more room to scale the one thing that you're doing well, is it good for you to now divest the opportunity of success on that one product to get something else? A lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of offering too many products instead of selling the one very well. My point is it better for you to add 20, 50, 100% more spend to create another revenue stream, or to take the thing that already works and just leverage that to get bigger and bigger in your business? So that's one thing that I want to challenge people. And for what it's worth, more often than not, the answer is it's not worth investing marketing resources and chasing down other SKUs. That being said, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't sell those things. When people come to your store, that there's auxiliary or complementary products that can absolutely help your bottom line. Now, let's say you've determined that it may or may not be there, but you don't know, which is another great answer. Because ultimately, if you do know that, yes, it's there and you've tested it out and you just need to scale it up, then that's not really the question here. Like, you just implement the same exact best practices and you start from ground zero and you scale the business the way that you were successful in the first one. If you don't know, if the question is about discovery and understanding, is this something that people want? Is this something that I can sell? Is this something that people are interested in? There are two really big ways to get that done. First, the Facebook ads solution way. Bring it into your dynamic product ads, your carousel ads, your DPA, that I hope if you're running a general store and you've got 5, 10, 100 different SKUs, please don't be running 100 different SKUs. But if you are, just because it's a pain to manage. I used to manage like New Balance and Macy's thing, and it was like 50,000, 100,000 SKUs because it was every color, every size, every product. It was a nightmare. We just hired an agency purely to just run the Excel spreadsheet of managing all those products. It was ridiculous. My point is, add that product to your dynamic product ads and see if people are buying it. The dynamic product ads are showing people products that not only have they shown interest in, but other products that people might be interested in, or they're suggesting products you might like. It's Facebook's version of like when you go to Amazon, you say, well, people that like this also like X, Y, and Z. DPA, or dynamic product ads, are the exact same thing, but in the Facebook ecosystem. So what you can do is add it to the dynamic product ads and then see if it sells. And something that I think far too many people don't know is when you're running dynamic product ads, if you go to the breakdown section of your reporting, I'm pointing on my screen, although it's to nothing. I'm just pretending that I'm looking, that my screen is the UI, so you can watch this later if you want to. But over in the upper right-hand corner, there's like reports, and then there's breakdowns, and then there's columns. If you hit that breakdown, you hit delivery, you can select product ID. And what that's going to do is tell you how much you've spent and how much you've sold, all of the normal Facebook UI ads metrics you're used to seeing by ad or by campaign. But you can break that down inside of a DPA ad by every single product that you're selling. So one of the great things that you can do for this is if you're introducing new products, or you want to see what products people are interested in, not just looking at your Shopify store, but what do people on Facebook want to buy, which again, might not be the same thing. You can get a breakdown of that. And especially if you introduce new products, how well are they doing? You can get a good idea by what's the velocity of people, of Facebook even spending money on that product inside of the DPA ad. Hi, Alejandro. I see your question. I'll get to you when I'm done with this one. Welcome to the live, by the way. Alejandro's on YouTube. I appreciate that. So that would be the Facebook way of doing it. Add it to your DPA ads and see what happens. And if it scales, then you can prove out that it works, in which case I don't really need to answer your question because you just replicate whatever you've done for the rest of your business that's gotten you so successful that you can't scale, that you've maxed out the success you have in one place and you need a second vertical. And so you just rinse, Ross, repeat whatever process got you to be so successful that you need another item, and then you push that item in the same way. And the answer to that is obvious. is often very different for brand to brand to brand. It's really built around creative testing abroad and scaling it up with your infrastructure and your systems that you have in place. Just implement that process to another product, see if it works. What's most important is you find a way of scaling your efforts. So find a product that will work based on the systems and efforts that you've already made, and a way to replicate that repeatedly so that you can now scale multiple products using the systems you already have, not having to build individual systems for each individual one. The other way of pushing this is use your CRM lists and use your free information. Use your assets. So if you have a Facebook group, drop a post saying, hey, we got a new product. Drop an email that says, hey, we have a new thing. If you have SMS, text people out. Say, hey, there's a new product launch. See what the sales come from that. A lot of times people, I got this question like, well, I got 50 of this product. How do I best use Facebook ads to sell it? And I said, well, Facebook ads not the answer to your problem. You don't have enough products for Facebook to even be the solution. But if you have an existing customer base and it is somewhat vertically integrated because you're now trying to run a successful business at scale, and that makes the most sense for you, which by the way would make the most sense. Use your existing customer base to try to push those products. And if you're running DPA, then DPA is going to see more and more people hitting that view content, more and more people hitting that add to cart, more and more people hitting purchase, which means it's going to suggest that product to more and more people that are coming in off of your flagship product. So the way that this is implemented for big brands, let's say Nike, for instance, or I don't know exactly how they do it because I haven't worked on that brand. Let's work with one that I have. Let's say New Balance. We're pushing the new trainers, right? But as we launch joggers or, T-shirts or socks or whatever, when those items became popular because of an email blast or because of the Facebook group or because of SMS, the DPA sales of that product went up astronomically because the platform saw more and more people liking this thing. So it became a suggested item inside of our dynamic product ads. And then you were basically able to leverage what is going to get the most amount of people, the highest quality into my store, and be able to identify my brand at scale in an efficient way that I can push my business and continue to grow. And if they don't want the one thing, what are other things that I want to sell them? Dynamic product ads do that for you. That's your suggested ads. That closes the loop on sales that people may or may not have taken. So to answer your question, how would I launch a new product or how would I use Facebook to solve that problem? Number one, you probably don't have to. You might not want to use Facebook to solve that problem. You might not even want to spend money to sell it. But if you do, and it has been deemed to be a boon for your business, then I would really use ways of reaching your customers that don't cost ad dollars and see how that impacts the ads that you are running that are showing this entire selection. And what will work for you is if you see, hey, when I drop this email bomb, I drop this thing inside my Facebook group, I'm monetizing my Facebook group properly and not just having it be a place where a bunch of people talk to each other and my brand is completely misrepresented. Which, yes, there's going to be a video this week. I already recorded on how to monetize your Facebook group. It'll be up on the YouTube. I got to determine which order things should be in. Hey, if you want to see that video, I can make it happen on Monday or it'll be Wednesday or Friday or whatever. But if you're making success happen on those ends, it'll be force multiplied because it'll appear more and more inside of the Facebook ads. And then you'll be able to see your profit margin by product inside of your DPA ads by breaking down by delivery by product ID. And that's probably going to be your best bet. And understanding that after you've determined that it's actually useful for you to divest your Facebook account and chase 2 targets instead of 1, how best to take advantage of it. Or just let the DPA do the cleanup for you and let the one flagship product be the thing that gets most people into your store, right? Like, do you need something besides, Toyota has plenty of cars, but they push the shit out of that Camry, right? Ford has the F-150 and the Mustang, right? Those are 2 different buyers. Those are 2 different verticals. They push that. They got a million other things, but I can't remember the last time I saw a commercial for like an Expedition. And I'm pretty sure they're still selling whoever's a Chevy or whatever. I'm certain they're still selling these massive SUVs because I see new ones all the time. Like Mercedes is still selling the G-Wagon, but I don't remember the last time I saw a commercial for the G-Wagon, right? They're building the brand, and if that's not the right fit for you, the customer identifies the right way of coming across it, but it's not cost effective to divest your brand identity to try to sell something else. So anyway, that's how I would solve that problem. Does that help you, my man?
It certainly does, Charlie. Thank you so much again for providing so much value for everyone here. Charlie's top 100 Facebook advertisers in the US. The least we could do is to give you a follow. Again, I thank you so much again for all the value you're providing here, brother.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. All right, I'm getting swarmed with some questions here, which is great. I just want to make sure that I get to everybody. So we got one question here on Clubhouse, and I got a question here on YouTube. So, Hung, I see you on Clubhouse, but I told Alejandro on YouTube I'd get to his question, and here we go. He says, hi, Charlie. And I'm going to try to burn through these fast, so I might not exhale here soon. Believe me, I'm going to be okay, and I hope I'm going to solve all of you questions. And if this goes too fast, you can always come back and watch the replay on Facebook or on the Facebook page, Facebook group, or on the YouTube channel. And if you don't know where those are, DM me because you're on Clubhouse and you can't find them. I'll gladly point you in those directions. But here we go. You can always rewind. We're at 55 minutes. Let's get to it. Alejandro says, hi, Charlie, great content. Well, thank you very much. I have an HVAC service-based business. I've been trying different campaigns for my business, and I've found some success on messenger ads. Mazel tov. My question is, if I'm doing messenger ads, should I stop or not run any other type of campaign, also running lead ads and conversion ads on landing page? I'm concerned that I have the same creative on all. I have 5 creatives, each with a separate offer, all broad audience. Also, I just pick one out of those offers and create 10 creatives and test. Alejandro, this is a great question, and I love the way that you're trying to problem solve these pieces. What I would really try to do is get to the value of each one of these efforts. What you can do, what I recommend, is inside of your internal database, however you're tracking these leads and the people that are coming to you from however they're getting to you, try to tag them and understand, all right, I spent $100 this week on lead gen ads. How many conversions did I get this week? How many new customers did I get from those lead ads? Or over the last month, I spent $500 on lead ads. How many of those leads turned into customers? I spent $500 on messenger ads. How many people that came in on messenger ads turned into customers? I spent $500 on conversion ads. How many of those people came in as customers? In the lead gen game, which is what you're running, it is not about cost of lead. It's about conversion rate. Which one of these paths is most likely to bring you the highest quality customer? The conversion rate of the money that you're spending. I would stop the other things and focus to the nth degree on maximizing my spend in whatever direction that happens to be, and then optimize my pathway to make the most success out of that. Now, I don't know which one of those it is for you, and honestly, every business is different, and it really aims into where your target market is, the way that you're positioning, the way that you message, your core competencies. There is no way for me to tell you this is the absolute right thing to do. What I can tell you is strategically, look at your conversion, look at your messenger, look at your lead ads, look at all of them. Understand if you can, and if you don't know right now, that's fine. You can start to try to take a look at it moving forward. Figure out a way of solving this problem. What's my conversion rate for my dollars? Understand what is my cost per sale. If you spend X amount of money, how many sales are you going to get, and measure each one of those efforts in the same way. I bet you one of them does a lot better than the others, or one of them does far worse than the others. Pick a lane and maximize the shit out of that. That's how I would succeed. And again, that goes back to the overall lesson around iOS 14, how you're not going to be able to track everything. This is a perfect example of how you don't need any of that shit that people are complaining about losing to succeed. Because your path to success is understanding the contribution to the margin by the dollars that you're spending. If you spend $1 on Facebook and Messenger, how valuable is that to your business? Or in conversion, how valuable is that to your business? Or in lead ad, how valuable is that to your business? I've spent X money in this discipline. How many customers do I get? And I would try to rely on something more than 2 or 3 customers. I don't know like what your conversion rate is. I don't know about your volume. I mean, it might be you spend $1,000, you get 1 customer, and that means 10 grand, in which case you're fantastic. But if you have to spend that $1,000 in 4 or 5 different places, you're not really ROIing. Plus, they have the cost of goods and the cost of doing business. So while you might see a 10x ROAS, it's actually losing money because you have to pay people for their time. And then there's, costs of goods and all of that stuff. My point is, understand which pathway is the most beneficial to your business, and then prioritize trying to maximize the ability to invest in that pathway That's your path to success, Alejandro. That's an amazing question, and I really hope that that helps. And whatever path you decide to go down, the number one way of maximizing success of that is using creative testing at the broad audience that's working for you. Don't let audience be a variable. Let your creative be the variable until you need a better audience, because your creative doesn't get any better. Then you have to solve the problem strategically or tactically, not by creative. But remember, creative is the number one way of moving the needle, and that's been proven by literally billions and billions and billions of dollars for years and years and years just on Facebook. But it's also been proven for hundreds of years across advertising, and honestly probably thousands of years across humanity. The sales pitch matters far more than the person you're reaching, because some people are ready to buy, some people aren't. How do you turn the person that's not ready to buy into a buyer? The number one way of doing that is by the sales pitch. I hope that helps. We've got one more question here, and this is from Hung. I recognize you from my DMs. You were asking me potentially about the course, man. We can try to figure that out as well. But anyway, hey, man, welcome to the Clubhouse stage. Introduce yourself and let me know how I can help.
Hello, my name is Hung. I'm an agency owner specializing in Facebook and Instagram ads over here in Germany. So we work for different clients mostly in lead generation, and have one or two clients in the eCOm space. But I've been following you since Dennis Yu.
Oh yeah,
one of my mentors reposted you, and been following and addicted to your content since then.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, Dennis is a good guy. Anybody that says, "Hey, you're excellent at this," I appreciate.
Yeah, I trust his opinion, so that's why I looked at your content. Yeah. So basically, I have different questions. So
sure.
One would be, so I've been following your advice, simplifying the ad account campaign structure we are running for our clients. One thing you just answered in the question before was, where's the value of lookalike audience and custom audience? Then if you were saying that mostly you should doing broad targeting and focus on creatives. So your answer was like, if that's maxed out kind of, then you should focus on lookalikes and other audiences.
Yeah,
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, if you've maxed out your creative and you can't find any more efficiencies, then the next move forward is either strategic or tactical. Strategic would be audiences, tactical would be bidding models and whatever else. But make sure that you've established a very solid constant or a control element so that when you implement the test, you actually have a really good read on whether or not it was good or bad for you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. So my other question is basically, we ran an account audit from another potential client, and they're selling a digital product. And when I looked at their account, I saw like they had $100 CPA per conversion. So when I put in the attribution model, like you said, look at the one-click attribution and stuff, I saw that most of the conversion that were reported on Facebook were actually view-through conversions. So that seemed a bit of odd. And I then asked the client, he's running like 15K a month on Google Ads. So my question is like, could it be that Facebook is over-reporting this much because the one-day view-through conversion were like 80%, and the one-day click conversion only the 20%, and it seems kind of off.
Yeah, no. So this is a situation of where I really get into like the ecosystem ROAS, and ultimately, like, it doesn't matter if that's what's best for business. That's great. And how you can move your Facebook account forward is really trying to optimize on getting your cost per click or your cost per sale on that, or cost per lead on that one day better and better on that click. So if it's 80% of your traffic or your resources are coming from one day view, that's fine. What I would do is I would.
Is that correct data? That most of the conversions come from view through, so they didn't click on that, and the conversion came up otherwise.
That's absolutely possible. Like, really what's happening is what you're asking is it realistic to say that if I show somebody a lot of Facebook ads, that they then go to Google to try to find out about the company and then convert? Like, that to me happens all the time, right? I do that. I'm sure you've done that. You've seen an ad or some piece of content like, that's interesting, or a commercial on TV. You go to Google and then you make a purchase. And that's fine. What I would, so first off, it completely passes the bullshit detector for me, right? Totally makes sense. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
And probably that account has not been optimizing towards a one-day click metric. It hasn't been optimizing towards taking actions on Google, on Facebook. So Facebook's really trying to find the people that are going to convert, even if that conversion doesn't occur off of a Facebook click. So at the surface, totally makes sense. An action item I might take would be, what's up?
No, just
okay.
Continue.
So an action item I might take is starting to look at the account in a way of, how do I prioritize the one-day click metric as something that's important to me? So I wouldn't change the entire architecture, because clearly it's working enough for them to at least hire you, right? They're still in business, right? Like, the business is doing good enough as it is. So don't make some institutional wild change and hope for the best. That's probably what you ultimately are going to end up doing, but let it be each individual step makes sense. That way also, if you slip up or something that you do doesn't work, like you run a test and the outcome is a loss, you're able to undo that work, which is absolutely 100% something you need to be able to do, because not every move you make is going to be the right one. And it shouldn't be an expectation that you're going to be 100% correct all the time. So my point is, if you can start to prioritize your optimizations towards, well, where is my one-day click best? Or start to, when you're doing your testing, or if you have, for instance, a possibility of running a creative, testing campaign or effort, depending on your cost per, now in the lead gen game, your cost per is pretty low. So you're going to be able to get out of the learning phase there, potentially. Prioritize that to a one-day click if you can. And that way the ads that come out are going to be ads that get people to click on Facebook and make that ultimate desired action. Now, the impact that that's going to have is ultimately, you're probably going to see more. You may or may not see the same shift overall of 80% of people that convert are on view through. It might be a smaller and smaller percentage of people, not because you're making the view through less effective, but because you're starting to introduce a larger and larger percentage of people that are buying right away. They're incremental buyers are coming in on a one-day click. So if you have incremental buyers that are coming in on a one-day click, that may or may not have an impact on the view through, but because you're getting better and better clicks from Facebook, ultimately what you're going to be able to see and what you need to measure and prove out is, does that help the overall volume of leads the customer is seeing? And does it ultimately help out the value and the quality of those leads? Because you're really measuring on a conversion rate. So my point here is, Facebook right now seems like it has been optimized in a very effective way to get people interested enough to then go to Google. If you can get Facebook optimized in a way where they click on Facebook, you're not eliminating those people that are going to also go to Google. You're just finding the people that will, additional people that'll click on Facebook ads. So you're going to find incrementality to the business. So again, the way I would do that, number one, I would try to optimize when you're looking at optimizations and you have to make a decision. If you're on the fence, 50%, prioritize the ad that does better on a click than a view. Try to make that click the number one thing that you're really looking towards when making these optimizations, if you have to make a decision. The second side of this is, if you're doing creative testing and moving forward in the business, I would really try to heavily prioritize that one-day click as being something that, if you can get out of the learning phase and you have enough volume, that you make a priority. Because then you're going to find incrementality to your business, because a one-day click, an ad that works on a one-day click, isn't necessarily going to cost or be detrimental to the other ads that you're also running that make people buy on a one-day view. And Facebook's going to find ultimately the best way of delivering efficiency. But instead of just having ads that create view through, if you also have ads that create click through, you're going to get a greater efficiency because you're going to find the right ad for the right impression at the right time, which means you're going to lower your overall cost while increasing the volume and the quality of users coming into the ecosystem, which ultimately is going to be good for business. So I hope that helps, Hung, and feel free to DM me. I gotta go live in the Slack channel in like 1 minute. And I do need to run to the bathroom, but I hope that helps. And again, you've been DMing me. I respond to those DMs. I really enjoy it. This is a fun problem. I'd love to help you out with some more stuff. Let me know what else I can do. And from there, I guess basically I'll see you on the internet, my man. And best of luck to you. And also, hey, look, congratulations. You're running a business with quality problems. And that is something that should not be ignored. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for your content, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. That's why I'm here. This is not only what I do for a living, it's also my hobby. I'm a lucky man. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll see you guys later. I got to go live in the Slack right now. So see you then. We're going to be pulling up one of my ad accounts and building a Scrum doc and ecosystem ROAS from scratch, live on the air from one of my personal accounts, which should be fun and highly valuable. If you want to get into that Slack, you can join me at the Patreon, or you can go to the site, facebookdisruptor.com. And if you do this week or any week's homework, get it for 50% off. That's a great deal. Take advantage of it. I'll see you on the internet. Bye.